Hi, friends. I'm Courtney. I'm a performer, speaker, and a writer. I'm a mama to three crazy boys and a super sweet dog. I decided 12 years ago that I needed to create a business that worked for me instead of me working for it. I'm a multi passionate entrepreneur who may be considered a serial entrepreneur by some. But then I realized that all of my businesses focused on connection, community, and creating an incredible experience. I cannot wait to share with you how to make small but mighty changes in your life to affect your overall well being and create a life and business you want to get up in the morning for. That's right, my friends. I am the Renaissance Mama.
Hi, friends. It's me, Courtney, the Renaissance Mama, and I have a very special guest today in honor of Belle Let's Chat Day. I am chatting with, I was going to call you a happiness guru, but I guess that's not it, a happiness coach, Heather Albrecht. Thank you so much for coming on my show. Please say hello to my audience.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for having me, Courtney.
Oh my goodness. Like I said, thank you for coming out. So, in case anyone doesn't know, myself included, please tell me, what is a happiness coach?
So I have found I help my clients to rediscover what makes them happy, what brings them fulfillment, what makes them feel joyful. I think so often it's as moms, it's kind of the lowest thing on the to-do list. It really is. It's the self-care stuff. And, seeing the kids and seeing what the kids are doing, watching them, that's great. And obviously we have enjoyment there, but the happiness that we need to reconnect with is like what's always made us happy. And we forget that in the parenting role, I think.
I love that so much. I know I was going to do an episode a while back that was like, how to put yourself first. Okay, well, not last, because I feel like as most moms, we are always like at the bottom of the totem pole.
Yep, I agree. It does. It happens that way, unfortunately.
So, Heather,
I
how did you get into this? Like, how did you even have interest in this? Like, I don't even know where to start.
So it's a bit of a rambling story, so I'll try to not ramble too long. So in 2016, I was a business owner of two businesses, completely not coaching. And I had just left a W-2 job that was like my safety net job and was completely self-employed at that point. So I'd left that job in November, fast forward to July of 2016, and I was like getting ready to have my first real vacation. Like no work was planned at all. I wasn't just going to be doing a different job during that time frame. And my kids were 8 and 10 at the time. And I woke up the day after 4th of July, thought I had a hangover. I hadn't drank a lot. So I was like, this is weird, but that was what I felt like. And it just didn't go away. I had just kind of like disconnected. Um, Throughout the week, it got worse and worse. I knew I had this vacation coming up at the end of that week, and I just slowly got more and more disconnected from my body. And Thursday afternoon, one of my clients asked me how I was doing, and she was just exactly the right person to ask me that question because I knew her personally well enough, and I just lost my shit. It was just a whole thing. And that was the beginning of me realizing that I had just taken on so much and I had done so little self-care that I needed to really get my priorities straight and realize what was going on. I did some pretty intense therapy during that time and, got myself to a healthier mental place and realized that at the time, I thought money was the main issue. And so my original coaching practice was a financial coaching practice, and I still coach around money now. But it was always money with the idea of helping people to do the things that make them happier. So it's always been about happiness and fulfillment. Um, but it has like changed the lens through time. And in 2022, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. And I realized that the tools that I had learned in becoming a coach were just helping me so immensely to be able to get through the mental anguish of dealing with cancer treatment and like just, I mean, the diagnosis and then treatment. It's just all the things. There's so many mental hurdles to go through when you're diagnosed and with something like that, that I was finding myself showing up in these Facebook groups that I was a card carrying member of now and trying to help the other people to like basically sort through their emotions so that they could actually continue living their life while they went through treatment the way that I was. Like I found happiness during that year. It wasn't a horrible year. It wasn't a great year, but I had great moments during that time frame. And what I was seeing was a lot of people who were not having any great moments, and they were basically so upset about how this was happening to them that they stopped living basically as soon as it sunk in.
Yeah. Oh my
So,
gosh.
oh, sorry.
Heather. Oh,
I
no,
kind of
I
paused
loved it.
there. But so during that time, it caused me to rethink my practice. And so, March of last year, I expanded from just financial coaching to helping more with happiness and fulfillment. And yeah, just recently got certified in happiness coaching.
Oh, that's so good. And isn't it funny? Like, I love how you said it was just that right person who asked the right question, right? Sometimes you don't know. All of a sudden you think, I'm fine, I'm busy, I'm fine. And then that one person, sometimes it's not even the right question. Sometimes it's just a look or a hug, and you're just like, oh my goodness. And that's the release you need. So I love
Yeah.
that and you know what? I think, and maybe you'll agree with me as well. Like, I love that it started with money, because a lot of us do think like, oh, that's the answer to our happiness, right? And now you're like,
Yeah.
wait a second, let's relook at that. Let's really think about yeah, happiness in general and how to money is important. I get that too,
Yeah.
but yeah, how to kind of reshape that. So what a beautiful story. Oh my
Thank you.
goodness.
Yeah. It's been a journey.
I bet. And still always a journey, right?
Yep. There's always more to it.
Awesome. Well, I love hearing that. And what I really wanted to chat with you today was kind of about moms and their mental health, because
Hmm.
like you and I were saying, sometimes we put ourselves last, right?
Yeah.
So I'm just wondering from you, what are some like unique challenges you find when you see moms, and what do they face when it comes to maintaining their mental well-being?
I think a lot of it comes from just taking on everything, which is exactly where I was at in 2016. It was having taken everything on, prioritizing everybody else because you feel like that's the right thing to do. It's what society pressures us to do. And realizing that that's just, are we allowed to swear?
Yeah.
I don't, I try to hold it back if I can, but authentic Heather is potty
Fair.
mouth. So, um, so taking on all of this and not focusing on ourselves at any point because we think that that is what is expected of us and what is the right thing to do. We have this self-sacrificing mother figure just like up on this pedestal, and everyone's like, she did everything for me at the expense of herself, and it's like glorified.
Yeah.
And my opinion is that that is just total crap. And we're not doing anybody any favors by doing that, because we end up in a place where we're angry and sad and depressed and, browbeaten. And, we've done it to ourselves, but because we think it's the right thing to do. And so by taking care of ourselves better and putting our happiness and our needs higher up on the list, we're actually doing such a big favor for our families and especially our children who we're raising, because they see that, everybody matters. Everybody's mental well-being matters in the family. And, we've got the whole quip, happy wife, happy life, but it's lip service, really, isn't it?
Oh, well, and I think too is like the pressures we put on ourselves, it's not sustainable, right? Like you can
Right.
only do all the things for so long until
Exactly.
you just can't. Like you can't. So
Yeah.
yeah,
And
it's
that's pretty much what happened to me. My brain decided it was done and I
yeah.
couldn't do it. And so like that whole disconnection between my brain and my body that I was feeling during that time frame was my brain saying, no, You haven't been listening to what we need. And so we're going to just take action into our own hands now and, start to make you pay attention.
Yeah.
Um, and some of us, that's like our mental strength, right? We're able to push it aside. And I think that happens in so many different ways, especially with the mental health space, because like, for instance, as I was going through my cancer treatment, like we're in survival mode, everyone's like, oh, you're so strong. You're doing what you have to do to not die. Like, not to make light of it, but that's really what it is.
Yeah.
Like when you're going through treatment, that's what you're doing. You're
Yeah.
doing what you're told and you're trying to basically get back to a healthier place, but it's survival mode. It's not generally living. And as much as I tried to process my emotions and like keep that front of mind as I was going through everything, I got through the end of like my active treatment phase, and I found that I was having just a much harder time, and had to take that time. And luckily, what I've realized about myself is that is how I operate. I can do really well in survival mode. Like I can push through and I can stay strong. But what happens is that once the immediate threat is over, my brain lets my body release. And then I start feeling everything that I hadn't wanted to feel because I needed to stay mentally tough to get through it all.
Wow. That's
But it took me
incredible.
years to learn
Yeah.
that.
Right. And it does. That's always mind blowing. It always is mind blowing that you at any age are still learning about yourself and thinking, man, why didn't I know this like 20 years ago? Like,
Right.
wow, I would have liked to, but yeah, constantly learning.
And it's
So-
recognizing our patterns.
right. Yes. Very much so.
Yeah. What were you gonna
I
ask?
would like to know a little bit, like, how do you sort of approach coaching to promote happiness and well-being, like with moms in particular?
Yeah. So I like to I like to take my clients through some exercises at first, takes them some time to get comfortable with me.
Mhm.
And what we do is we really look at every facet of life as much as we can and kind of rate them. Like, how do you feel about family? How do you feel about money? Like, how fulfilling are you feeling like that area of life is? Because I think what happens is that we all tend to catastrophize things, right? We say everything sucks. Really, it's probably not everything. It's probably like a couple of areas, but it just feels like it's everything because it's so heavy, right? And so by going through and looking at it, we can actually like compartmentalize some things. And also, I can help my clients to start to realize that no, it's not everything. This is actually really good. This is actually pretty good. Like this, if you just did one more thing that you wish you were doing, which you probably can easily start doing 9 times out of 10 or 7 times out of 10, we'll give it a little bit less, then, it's just being intentional about doing that. And that makes that area feel better. But
Mhm.
there's usually like one or two areas that, are rated more like a 3 or a 2. And that's where the most attention needs to go. And then it comes down to like, what is bothering you the most? Like if it's a relationship with one of your children, then like what would make that feel better? What do you think it needs? And so really I'm helping my clients to kind of like really get granular on what it is. And then we're talking about like what could you do? And what's keeping you from doing it now? Why haven't you done it? So what are you afraid of?
Oh, I like
Does
that
that
so
answer
much.
your question?
Yeah, no, that's beautiful. And I am such a visual person. So like I can just see like the importance of really just like clarifying things for people. And sometimes, like I said before, like asking those questions that maybe no one's asked them, right? Or
Right.
breaking down things instead of saying, yeah, I feel bad, but where, and really breaking it down. I love that. Cause you're right. It's probably not everything that's terrible, but there's something. And like, as we all know, like when that one thing is bothering you or two or three, whatever it is, it can definitely weigh you down pretty quickly. So the fact to
Yeah.
kind of like clarify and then get specific, I really, really like that. Cool. So how then, once you kind of, I know we chatted a little bit of like how to kind of figure that out. Are there any like specific strategies or techniques, or I guess it really depends on what each person's working on?
Yeah, it really depends on what it is, what it is the individual is looking for. But I also like to have, so as I work with clients, I have them rating how they're feeling, like
Mm.
every few appointments,
Yeah.
basically, because it's so intangible that if you're not looking at that, it's hard for them to know whether or not there have been any gains.
Yeah.
So it's hard to start to I try to quantify as much of it as I can for them, even though the quantification itself is very subjective.
Yeah.
But really what we're talking about is incredibly subjective.
Yes. Yeah.
So, as long as it's the same person who's making the subjective
Yeah.
quantification, then we're fine. It's the depression scale screening that you do when you go and see your PCP. So but obviously, like, there's a big difference between what I do and therapy. And there's a line there. I know what that line is, and I don't try to overstep into the realm of therapy. So I want to always be really clear on that. If somebody is having needs that are beyond what I'm able to do with them, then, I refer them out. But a lot of my clients actually are already working with therapists.
Amazing.
That does happen a lot. I'm trying to get back to what question you asked me.
I was just saying like specific strategies or like techniques
Oh,
or that you can
yeah.
share.
Yeah. So I think it's, asking people what they want, especially women.
Yeah.
So many women can't answer that question. If
It's
you
crazy.
really want to start
I
somewhere,
know.
start with what you want. Make a
Yeah.
list of what you would like. And, let it be crazy. Start really small, get really big, like what are you looking for? And a lot of times what I like to do is have them do that. And then, like, what are the small things that you want? Like, do you want to take more baths? Like, what's stopping you? Just figure out how to carve out 45 minutes to do that, once a week, if that is what's going to make you happy. If you want to take walks more often to like, or to meditate, whatever it might be, like, it's surprising how small some of those things are. And so I wrote a journal in 2019, and it has some self-care ideas in the front, and it's like just barely out of reach right now, or I would show it to you. Actually, here, hang on just a second. Let me grab it. It really was that close.
Amazing.
But so this is my journal,
Love it.
and it's on Amazon. But in the front, I have self-care ideas, and I very consciously made them all things that are either free
Mm.
or you do them at home. So just really simple things that you can come to and look at. And it's kind of like from that idea of what do you want? So if you can't come up with a list of things that you want, you can go
Yeah.
here, look at this list and figure it out. But really, the whole purpose of the journal is trying to get people to think about their desires around how they want to feel. Like, what exactly do you want to feel in your life? Because it might not necessarily be happiness or joy or relation or whatever it is. I mean, we all kind of want that, but sometimes that is too far of a goal. Like, I would just like to be calm more often,
Mm.
or feel, content. Like, I'm not looking for overjoyed. I just want to feel like content in the moment of what I'm doing. I think that is a feeling that is often overlooked.
Yeah.
Just contentedness. And what's going to do that for you? So, the journal is very action oriented. It has a spot for you to do a brain dump so that you can really like get everything out of your head and onto paper, because that mental load is part of what does such a number on our brains as moms. I mean, we're keeping track of our health appointments, our dentist appointments, our taking care of the cars, whatever it might be,
Yeah.
when it's time to register for summer camp, when it's time to register for soccer, it's like all of the things like art
Yes.
stuff, who needs what, when, where, and who. And it's like, you're not just doing it for you, you're doing it for your whole family. And let's face it, lots of times for our spouses.
Yep.
So, because they're busy also, and we want to make sure that they're not overlooking taking care of themselves because that happens. And it's not so much about babysitting. It comes from a place of caring and loving and wanting them to be well taken care of. So in this book, one of the things that my clients have loved so much about it is there's a spot that says, okay, what can you delegate?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, it's making you front of mind to think of delegation,
Yeah.
which
No,
then reduces our workload.
I love the brain dump. It is something for me with a very busy mind that I have started doing. And people are funny because I say, yeah, I'm like, I'll just write the whole thing for the whole week, every little thing I feel like I have to do. And they're like, do you go back and check it and whatever? And I'm like, depends. But as long as it's out of my head, like, oh, that feeling feels so
Yeah.
much. So yeah, no,
And it gets rid of that fear of the fact that you might forget it.
Yes.
Because if it's on paper, you don't have to worry about forgetting it anymore. You can just go back to the paper.
That's right. And you're not waking up in the middle of the night thinking about things and not going back to sleep because it's on the paper. So
Yep,
oh,
exactly.
I love that so much. And I really liked when you chatted about like asking yourself what you want, because I do think it's something that women so often nobody asks and we just don't answer. Or I know for me, for a long time, someone like, oh, what do you want? I'm like, I don't know. I don't care. Da, da, da. And it's just such an easy response because like I kept being like, oh, I'm easygoing. But it was just not, first of all, it wasn't the way I like to answer things. I realize now people need to like, do you want this or this? And I could say yes or no for sure.
Right. Yeah.
Right. I realize that's something different with me, which is fine. Like I love that now. But I also feel, and I wonder if you agree, once you start asking yourself and once you start dreaming of what you want and all those things, like it becomes so much easier. Like once you really get into it, you're like,
Yeah.
oh my goodness, and this and this and this. And like I feel now like I could write you a mega list of what I want.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, it's definitely something that gets easier with practice, just like gratitude. The more you practice gratitude, the more it's easy to come up with things that you're grateful for.
Okay, so now I've got a tough one for you.
Okay.
Mom guilt is
Oh, yeah.
such a common issue with so many moms. How do you possibly help moms support and cope with this silly mom guilt that we have all put on ourselves? But like,
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah. I mean, I think that's the root of putting ourselves so low on the list, right? Is we feel like we're taking away ourselves from our kids.
yeah,
But I think it comes down to a little bit about what I talked about earlier, how, you have to take care of yourself so that you have something to give to your family and to your kids. So, by taking better care of yourself, you're modeling that to your children. So they're not going to be self-sacrificing because they saw you taking care of yourself.
I'm not worried about that with my kids. Let me tell you, it's joking.
Well, it is a different story when they're young, man. I mean, you definitely have to take that with a grain of salt as you're like witnessing teenagers who are
Right?
just like by definition self-involved.
Yeah, that's a whole other episode.
That's how they're supposed to be at that age. So it's
Yeah.
okay.
It's
As long as they see you.
yes.
Yeah. So I think it's just reminding, it's such a beaten down analogy, the whole like, put your oxygen mask
I
on
know.
first, or you can't fill from an empty cup. It's like it gets so blasé to say those things over and over again, but they also are 100% true. And so it's figuring out what that means for you, I think, and, reminding yourself that it is okay to have needs because you're a human and you have to take care of yourself in order to be able to take care of others. And you're happier and a better parent for it. So like the happier you are, you're able to show up to your children with like more patience and, more understanding and let's face it, we're all better to be around when we're not miserable.
Oh my goodness,
So
yes. I always joke on this show that like COVID really taught me how much like I need to move my body throughout the day, because there was many times like I had to leave whatever it was happening, go to my garage to do a little workout to just get that out. And if I didn't, and I still to this day like almost have to do something every day, or else I find around 3 or 4 in the afternoon I am a cranky. No one wants to talk to me and I don't want to talk to anyone. But if I do that, I know that's my like, okay, I got this. We're good. Like I'm a
yeah,
very
then you're able to keep going. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if anybody hasn't read Emily Nagoski's Burnout yet, then like get on it because that's super good. It's a
So
great
good.
book.
Awesome. All right, we're almost done our time, which I can't believe. Like I said, these are
Yeah.
fly by
It went
so
so fast.
quickly, right? I know. That's what I get. I'm always like, oh, I want to be on longer. So coming from the Renaissance mama who wears multiple hats,
Yeah.
like how do you support moms? And I feel so many of us do us that are literally trying to do all the things all the time and juggling the different roles and then always looking for that balance that we all know
Mm.
doesn't exist, but we keep like, I got it, I can do it, I got it, I got it. Like how do you even start with that?
Well, one thing that hit me pretty hard was realizing that if you're saying yes to everything, you're always saying no to something else. And I think what happens is by saying yes to everything, when people are asking us for stuff, the person we're saying no to the most is ourselves.
Yeah.
And so it still comes back to that self-care. And saying no is part of self-care. So like what's really important to you? What are your personal values? Does the stuff that you're being requested to do really line up with your personal values? And if not, are you really the only person that could do it? There's probably somebody else that could, or maybe should step up.
Right.
um so yeah, learning to say no is super hard. I definitely still struggle with that. I think we all do. I think it's something that we just have to continue practicing throughout our entire lives.
Yeah.
But realizing that saying yes to everything is always saying no to something because we only have so much time in the day, um, helps me a lot. Like I used to do some volunteering that my kids weren't involved in at all. And I loved the program. It was a fantastic program. I'm a mountain biker. I've mountain biked since I was 13. And so I did this program called Little Bellas, and it was awesome. I loved it. And it was
Yeah.
mentoring girls on mountain bikes.
Yeah.
But neither of my kids were involved. And so, I realized that they weren't going to be interested in it. And it was probably something that I should take off my plate. And so after 3 years, I stopped doing it. And maybe someday I'll do it again when they're older and it's not feeling like I'm taking the time away from them. But that's just a good example that I could come up with on the fly.
No, I love that. And I really do, because I feel like I have recently, when I'm making decisions about my business, I'm very good at being like, okay, does this, fit my goal? Does this fit my vision? But I love that you said like your personal values. Like, does this fit my personal values and my personal vision of what I want my life to be or what's going to
Yeah.
make me happy? So like just reframing it, like it's so easy sometimes to do it for business or other things, but to be like, wait a second, I've got to do it for me too. So like, I really resonated with that. I really liked it.
Good. I'm glad.
Awesome. Well, Heather, that is like all the time we had, which is absolutely crazy. So before you leave, can you please tell my audience where they can find you, where they can find this journal, because I need to do some research on that. It looks amazing. And just once again, just thank you so much for coming. So please share where they can find you.
Yeah, thank you. So I can give you a link for the
Awesome.
journal so
I
that you
will.
can put that
Yeah.
in like a show notes or whatever you do.
Yes.
And you can find me on social media. My business is Heather Albrecht Coaching. I'm not sure if it's going to show up on the bottom of the screen when everything's edited, but it is
Yeah.
on there. And my Instagram is _coach_Heather. And so you can find me there. I have a Facebook page and I'd love to connect with all of you.
So good. Well, thank you again so much. We really appreciate it. I mean, as much as people complain about Bell Let's Talk and the fact that it's big company, I just love that we're having these conversations, right? Like that to me is where it's super important. Did you have one more thing you wanted to share?
I did have one more thing that I can share, which might be awesome. So if you go to my website, there is a freebie you can download. So it's heatheralbrechtcoaching.com, and it's a stress release workbook. And so it has some journaling things and then also some just techniques to reduce stress in the moment. So things that you can even do like if you're in a meeting,
Oh,
so
yes,
that no one
please.
will be able to tell.
Oh my goodness, I love that so much. Well, Heather, thank you so much for joining me on the Renaissance Mama. Bye for now, friends.
Thanks for having me.